Hey guys, welcome to the Black Girl Tech Club. I'm Dream Chaser Jazz from Code Sis, and today we will be coding a Notepad app. All right, so the first thing you want to do is jump into your version of Visual Studio. Once you are inside of Visual Studio, you just want to go to File, New Project, and I will be using an MVC. Well, this project will be an MVC web app here, so I will just start by naming my application. And then we'll click next and finally create because I'm not going to do any authentication options. All right, so let's start by expanding the folders. I'm going to jump over to the program file, and notice in the program file, we already have some default code here. So the first thing we want to do is add the services to the container. Then we want to configure the HTTP request pipeline, which is also known as the middleware. And finally, we want to make sure our controller routes are mapped appropriately. Okay, so now let's move over to our models and start working on the data. So first off, since this is a note object, we are going to add some fields here. So we want our note to have an ID so we can uniquely identify it. We want to be able to store a title, the content for the note, and finally the date and time that it was created. Let's head over to the controller. All right, so first off, we're going to create a list of notes. Let's get that added in there. So this index method here is going to be sort of our default method, if you will. We're going to use the HTTP GET on this one. This is going to be what the controller, the method the controller hits first. This is going to be sort of like our driver for everything. Now let's work on our add method. So when we're adding a new note, start with some simple validation here. So if the title or the content is entered correctly, meaning we have a title and we have some text for the content, then we want to go ahead and assign these values to a new note object. And we want to add them to our list of notes. Finally, we want to redirect back so we can refresh the list just so that it shows up. The new note that we added shows up. We also want to add a method to remove a note. And when we're deleting a note, we want to make sure that we pass in the unique identifier so that the correct note gets deleted. So first, before we try to remove a note, we want to make sure it actually exists. So just some simple validation there. Now let's run it. All right, now let's change our home or index view. And the purpose of running it previously was just to make sure we don't have any errors. Let's start by injecting our model. And we want to be able to enumerate the notes. Give this page a header, and now let's do a form to add a new note. And we also need a submit button, of course. And we will finish up to add it by adding an error to display any existing notes. All right, so for our form, so this is going to be, the method for the form is going to be a post. It's going to route us to the home controller. And we need a label for title, and we need an input space for the title. We also need a label for the content, and we need some input space for the content. Last but not least, we need a button to submit. And let's run it again. And voila. Very basic, but it works. That's what we're looking for. Now we need an area to display existing notes. So if the model contains any notes, or I'm sorry, if the model does not contain any notes, then we just want to add a statement just showing that no notes exist. But if it does, then we want to make sure that we display those notes. We will display them in a table. Start with the table header. We'll have a column for ID, a column for title, and a column for content. And of course, the date time that the note was created. And we want to add a button. Remember that delete method that we created. We want the user to have a way to access that. So now the body of the table. So for each note that's in the model, we want to add a row. And for each row, we want to populate the ID. We want to populate the title. Want to populate the content. The date time it was created. Cast this to a string. Make sure it's formatted in a way we like. And finally, a delete button. We want to route this delete button to the home controller and the delete method on the home controller. And we want to pass in the ID of the note that's being deleted. Voila. Let's run it. Okay, test it out by adding a note. Here we go. Let's add another one. Awesome. There we go. And our delete button works as well. Perfect. All right, guys, now it's your turn. How can you make this app even better? How about adding a column to differentiate between completed tasks and tasks still needing to be done? Or step your game up on the UI and take this app from ordinary to extraordinary. The choice is yours, but comment below and let me know what enhancements you decided to make. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us at the Black Girl Tech Club.